Imagine this. You're sitting at your anniversary dinner, surrounded by your closest friends, thinking you're about to celebrate 6 years of marriage. Then your wife stands up, raises her wine glass, and announces to the entire room that your marriage was a complete waste of her time and she's upgrading. The room erupts in applause, actual clapping, while you sit there, heart ripped out, watching the woman you trusted destroy you for entertainment. Most men would have exploded. Most men would have begged for answers. But Marcus Hayes, he did something that would haunt his wife far more than any screaming match ever could. He removed his wedding ring, placed it on the table, and walked out in complete silence. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. Marcus Hayes had always believed routine was the backbone of marriage. Not the flashy stuff, not the lovey-dovey gestures that made hearts race, but the steady, rock-solid rhythm that kept two lives glued together when the world went sideways. He was a man of structure, a financial advisor who got that stability wasn't just about stacking paper in a portfolio. It was about showing up, day after day, grinding it out, building something real. Every morning, Marcus was up at 6 a.m. sharp. Not 5:58, not 6:02. Dead on 6. His alarm never needed to go off twice because the man was programmed like clockwork. He'd slide out of bed, smooth and quiet, not trying to wake Claire, who was all about sleeping in until the sun was straight up cooking their bedroom. He'd throw on his running shoes in the dim hallway, step outside into that crisp morning air, and knock out exactly 2 miles through their chill suburban hood. The route never switched up, past the Hendersons' crib with the blue shutters, around the park where mutts barked behind chain-link fences, down Maple Street where those old oak trees made a legit canopy overhead, and back home. His breathing stayed even, his feet hitting the pavement in that same familiar beat. This was Marcus's Zen time. This was his therapy session without the couch. By 6:35, he'd roll back home, skin shining with sweat, and make a beeline for the kitchen. 2 cups of coffee, one for him and one for Claire, brewed to perfection in their stainless steel French press. He'd pour hers into her ride-or-die ceramic mug, the one with the busted handle she flat-out refused to toss, and leave it chilling on the counter, where she'd spot it when she finally dragged herself out of the bedroom. Marcus was all about that calm, predictable life. In that routine, he found something even better than comfort: trust. Trust that tomorrow would mirror today. Trust that the life he and Claire had locked down together was solid as concrete. Trust that staying consistent meant staying committed. Claire? Nah, she was built different from day one. She was the wild card, the dreamer chasing thrills like a kid chasing fireflies on a hot summer night. She was hooked on surprises, random weekend getaways, last-minute reservations at spots they couldn't really swing budget-wise. She lived for that rush of the unexpected, while Marcus found his groove knowing exactly what was coming next. For 6 years straight, he bought into the idea that their differences were actually the glue. Like 2 puzzle pieces with opposite edges, they clicked precisely because they weren't carbon copies. He brought the stability to her chaos, she brought the spice to his vanilla routine. It was a beautiful vibe, or at least that's the story Marcus sold himself every morning while brewing that second cup of joe. He never saw it coming that the very differences he was hyped about would become the cracks that'd blow everything to pieces. He never caught on that while he was building this fortress of routine and trust, Claire was low-key plotting her escape from the exact stability he thought she needed. That wake-up call was coming real soon, on a night that would flip his entire world upside down. Marcus thought it was just another anniversary dinner when Claire mentioned the reservation at Antonio's. Nothing raised any red flags. Antonio's was their spot, the Italian joint where they'd celebrated every major milestone since year 2. The candlelit tables, the smell of fresh garlic bread, the way the owner always remembered their names. It felt safe, familiar, like coming home. I booked the private room, Claire had said casually over breakfast that Tuesday. "Figured we could invite some friends. Make it special, you know?" Marcus had smiled, thinking it was sweet. Claire wanting to share their anniversary with the people closest to them, that was actually dope. It showed she valued their circle, that she wanted to celebrate what they'd built together. He didn't question it for a second. Why would he? This was his wife, the woman he'd trusted for 6 straight years. The night rolled around, and Marcus showed up looking clean. Fresh haircut, his best navy suit, the cologne Claire had bought him last Christmas. He walked into Antonio's feeling good, ready to toast to another year of marriage, another chapter in their story. The private room was already buzzing when he arrived. About a dozen people, their closest friends, all dressed up and sipping wine. Everyone greeted him with hugs and handshakes. Sarah and Tom from their college days, Jessica and Mike from Claire's work crew, Brad and Amy, their neighbors who they'd barbecued with countless times. Even Claire's cousin Derek was there, posted up by the window with a glass of red wine. The vibe seemed legit normal, like any other dinner party they'd thrown over the years. Claire was working the room like she always did, laughing loud, touching people's arms when she talked, being the life of the party. Marcus grabbed a drink from the bar and settled into his seat at the head of the table. He felt grateful, honestly. Grateful for the friends, the life they'd created, the woman who'd planned all this. The appetizers came out. Bruschetta, calamari, those little mozzarella balls drizzled in balsamic that Antonio's was known for. Everyone was vibing, swapping stories, cracking jokes. Marcus loosened his tie a bit, feeling the warmth of the wine and the good energy in the room. This was what life was supposed to look like. Community, connection, love. But then the plates got cleared away, and something shifted in the atmosphere. Claire stood up from her seat, wine glass raised high like she was about to make a toast. The room went quiet, all eyes on her. Marcus smiled, expecting something heartfelt, maybe a speech about their journey together, some tears, some laughs, the usual anniversary stuff. What came out of her mouth instead was pure devastation. "This marriage has been a waste of my prime years," Claire announced, her voice crystal clear, no hesitation, no stumbling over words. "I'm done pretending. I'm upgrading." The room straight up erupted, not in gasps, not in shock, in applause. Actual clapping, like she just announced a promotion or a pregnancy, like destroying her husband in public was something worth celebrating. And Marcus? He just sat there, frozen solid, staring at the woman he'd given 6 years of his life to, while his heart got scooped out with a spoon. The applause kept going. It felt like hours, but was probably only 15 seconds. 15 seconds that rewired Marcus's entire understanding of reality. These weren't strangers clapping. These were people he'd laughed with, barbecued with, helped move furniture, lent money to when times got tight. And they were celebrating his destruction like it was New Year's Eve. Marcus's chest felt hollow, like someone had reached inside and yanked out everything that mattered. His vision tunneled. The faces around the table blurred into one collective betrayal. He could hear Claire's voice saying something else, probably more rehearsed lines about finding herself or needing space or whatever garbage script she'd memorized for this performance, but the words didn't register anymore. His brain was screaming at him to do something, stand up, yell, flip the table, demand answers, make a scene bigger than hers, show everyone in that room that you don't get to treat Marcus Hayes like yesterday's trash without consequences. But his body wouldn't cooperate. He just sat there, paralyzed, watching his wife bask in the attention she'd orchestrated at his expense. Then something clicked. A calm washed over him that felt almost eerie. It was like his emotions just shut down completely, went into hibernation mode to protect what was left of his sanity. Marcus looked down at his left hand, at the gold wedding band that had lived on his finger for 6 years. He twisted it slowly, feeling the weight of it, the symbolism of it, the lie of it. Without saying a single word, Marcus pulled the ring off. The motion was smooth, deliberate, final. He set it down gently beside his untouched plate, right next to the fancy folded napkin and the half-empty wine glass. The soft clink of metal against porcelain cut through the noise in the room like a gunshot.
Claire stopped mid-sentence. The smile froze on her face. A few people at the table went dead silent, suddenly realizing this wasn't just drama. This was real life imploding in real time. Marcus stood up. Still no words. He straightened his suit jacket, pushed his chair back under the table like he was finishing up a normal business dinner, and walked toward the door. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. He could feel every set of eyes burning into his back, but he didn't turn around. Didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing his face break. He walked past the main dining area, where regular couples were enjoying their pasta and wine, completely oblivious to the nightmare unfolding in the private room. He walked past Antonio himself, who looked confused but didn't stop him. He walked straight out into the parking lot, into the cool night air that felt like a slap of reality. His silence hit harder than any words could have. No yelling, no begging for explanations, no public meltdown that Claire could later twist into a story about him being unstable or controlling. Just a man removing his ring, standing up, and walking away with his dignity somehow still intact. That silence would haunt Claire more than she ever imagined, because Marcus wasn't done, not by a long shot. He was just getting started, and his revenge would be served ice cold.
Marcus drove home in complete silence. No radio, no music, just the hum of his engine and the occasional streetlight washing over his windshield. His hands gripped the steering wheel tight, knuckles white, but his face remained blank. He wasn't crying, he wasn't screaming. He was processing, calculating, planning. When he pulled into the driveway, their house looked exactly the same as when he left it 2 hours earlier. Same porch light glowing yellow, same flower pots Claire had arranged last spring, same welcome mat that said "Home Sweet Home" in cursive letters. Everything looked normal on the outside, but Marcus knew nothing would ever be normal again. He unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The silence of the empty house felt different now. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was exposing. He flicked on the lights and stood in the living room for a moment, just looking around at the life they'd built together. The couch they'd picked out at that furniture store after arguing for an hour. The photos on the mantel from their honeymoon in Maui. The throw pillows Claire insisted they needed, even though Marcus thought they were pointless. Then he got to work. Marcus wasn't drunk. He wasn't broken. He was stone-cold sober and laser-focused. He went upstairs to their bedroom and pulled out every suitcase they owned from the closet. He opened Claire's dresser drawers and started packing. Not frantically, not angrily, methodically, folding each piece of clothing like he was preparing for a business trip. Her shirts, her jeans, her dresses, her shoes lined up in neat rows at the bottom of each suitcase. He moved to the bathroom and cleared out her makeup, her lotions, her hair products, all that expensive stuff she bought online and left scattered across the counter. He boxed up her jewelry from the little velvet organizer on the dresser. He grabbed her books from the nightstand, her laptop from the desk, her chargers and headphones, and all the random junk she'd accumulated over 6 years of living in this house. By midnight, he had everything packed and stacked by the front door. Neat boxes and suitcases arranged like he was running a moving company. Claire's entire existence in that house condensed into luggage. Marcus stood back and looked at his work, feeling a grim satisfaction wash over him. This wasn't rage, this was strategy. Claire wanted out, she was getting out. Completely, permanently. No second chances, no dramatic reconciliation, no crying and begging her way back into his life when she realized her so-called upgrade was actually a downgrade. Marcus grabbed his phone and changed the locks on his calendar for first thing tomorrow morning. He made a note to call his bank and separate their accounts. He started a list of every shared credit card, every joint asset, every piece of their financial life that needed to be untangled. His silence at Antonio's had been the opening move. This was the follow-through, and Claire had no clue what was coming. She was probably still at that restaurant, soaking up attention. The next morning, Marcus woke up at 6 a.m. sharp, just like always. Same routine, same jog, same 2 cups of coffee. Except this time, he only brewed 1. That small change hit different.
It was the first morning in 6 years where Claire's chipped ceramic mug stayed in the cabinet, empty and unused. He was sipping his coffee when his phone started blowing up. Text after text, call after call, all from Claire. Marcus glanced at the screen and saw her name lighting it up like a Christmas tree. He picked up the phone, not to answer, but to watch, to observe, to see how long it would take for her confidence to crack. The first message came in at 7:15 a.m. "Marcus, we need to talk. Last night got out of hand." He read it, deleted it, took another sip of coffee. 7:32 a.m. "I know you're mad, but ignoring me isn't going to solve anything. We're adults." Read, delete, bite of toast. 8:03 a.m. "Seriously? You're really going to ghost me like this? After everything?" Marcus almost laughed at that one. After everything? Like she hadn't just nuked their marriage in front of a live studio audience. He deleted that one too. By noon, the tone shifted. The messages got longer, more desperate, dripping with excuses that Claire probably thought sounded reasonable. "I was confused, Marcus. I've been under so much pressure at work. I didn't mean what I said. It came out wrong. You know how I get when I'm overwhelmed." Delete. "We can fix this. Marriage is hard. People say things they don't mean. We just need to sit down and talk it through like rational people." Delete. Then came the guilt trips, the manipulation tactics Claire had always been low-key good at pulling when she wanted something. "I can't believe you just throw away 6 years without even giving me a chance to explain. That's cold, Marcus. That's not the man I married." Marcus set his phone down and stared at it. Not the man she married? The man she married had been loyal, consistent, present, and committed. The man she married had never once embarrassed her in public or announced to a room full of people that she was a waste of his time. But somehow he was the cold one for walking away with dignity. Delete. By evening, the messages turned angry. Claire's mask was slipping fast, and Marcus could see the real frustration bubbling up underneath all that fake remorse. "You're being immature, Marcus. Answer your damn phone. We have things to figure out. You can't just lock me out like this. This is ridiculous. I made a mistake, okay? People make mistakes. Stop acting like a child and talk to me." Marcus read each one carefully, then deleted them without hesitation. His revenge didn't require him to clap back with paragraphs. It didn't need angry voicemails or text wars. His silence was doing more damage than any words could. He could feel it. With every unanswered call, every ignored text, Claire was unraveling. And Marcus? He was just getting warmed up. The more he ignored her, the more desperate she'd become. And desperation was exactly what he needed her to feel. Because desperate people make mistakes. And Claire was about to make plenty.
By the second week, Claire's silence-induced panic had reached a whole new level. The texts weren't cutting it anymore. The voicemails were going straight to the digital graveyard. So she decided to go old school and show up where Marcus couldn't just delete her, his workplace. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Marcus got the call from reception. "Mr. Hayes, there's someone here to see you, says it's urgent." The receptionist's voice had that awkward tone that told Marcus exactly who was downstairs making a scene. He leaned back in his office chair and smiled. Of course she'd show up here. Classic Claire move. When things didn't go her way, she'd escalate, push boundaries, force confrontations in places where she thought he'd have to engage. But Marcus wasn't the same dude she'd humiliated 2 weeks ago. That version of him died at Antonio's. "Tell her I'm in a meeting," Marcus said calmly. She's pretty insistent, sir." "I'm sure she is. Still in a meeting." Marcus hung up and went back to his spreadsheets. He gave it 10 minutes before his phone rang again. This time it wasn't reception. It was Claire's sister, Monica, and her voice was dripping with that fake concerned tone that made Marcus's jaw clench. "Marcus, hey, it's Monica. Listen, I know things are rough right now between you and Claire, but she's really struggling. Can we talk just for a few minutes?" So, Claire had sent reinforcements. Smart play, but Marcus saw it coming from a mile away. He glanced out his office window and spotted them both in the lobby. Claire was pacing near the elevators, arms crossed, looking like she was about ready to storm up uninvited. Monica was planted by the reception desk, phone pressed to her ear, probably thinking she could guilt-trip him into coming down. Marcus walked out of his office and headed toward the elevator.
He wasn't hiding, he was making a statement. He rode down to the lobby, his face completely neutral, his stride confident. When the elevator doors opened, both women's heads snapped toward him. Claire rushed forward first. "Marcus, finally, we need to talk. This has gone on long enough." Marcus didn't stop walking. He headed straight to the reception desk, leaning casually against it like he was discussing the weather. Monica stepped closer, her expression pleading. "Marcus, please, Claire made a mistake. She knows that now. Marriages take work, and you guys have been through so much together. She was just under a lot of stress that night. You know how she gets." Marcus turned his head slowly, his eyes cold and focused. His voice came out steady, almost too calm for the situation. "Stress doesn't make you rent out a restaurant, invite 12 people, and rehearse a speech about how your marriage is worthless. That's not stress, that's planning." The words landed like a brick. Monica's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Claire's face went pale. Marcus straightened up, adjusted his tie, and looked directly at Claire for the first time. "You wanted independence. You got it. Don't come to my job begging for what you publicly threw away." He turned his back and walked away, leaving both of them standing there speechless under the watchful eyes of building security and every person in that lobby. His silence was over. Now came the cold, hard truth.
That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. Not because of heartbreak or depression, but because his mind was racing with questions that demanded answers. Claire's performance at Antonio's wasn't just spontaneous drama. Nobody rehearses a speech like that, books a private room, and invites witnesses unless they've been planning it for a minute. There was more to this story, and Marcus needed to know what he was really dealing with. Around midnight, he remembered something: Claire's laptop. In her rush to make her grand exit that night, she'd left it behind on the desk in their home office. Marcus had packed most of her stuff, but the laptop had been closed, tucked away, easy to miss. Now it sat there like a treasure chest full of answers he probably didn't want to find. He walked into the office and flipped it open. The screen glowed to life, asking for a password. Marcus hesitated for a second, then typed in the name of Claire's childhood dog, Biscuit123. The same password she'd used for everything since college, because she could never be bothered to come up with new ones. The laptop unlocked. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Part of him wanted to close it right then, to preserve whatever ignorance he had left. But the other part, the part that had been publicly humiliated and discarded, needed to see the full picture. He clicked through her folders, her browser history, her email inbox. It didn't take long to find the receipts, literally. Hotel stays at places they'd never been together, dinner reservations for two at restaurants Marcus had never heard of, all of them charged to their joint credit card, the one they'd opened together to build their credit as a married couple. Claire had been funding her affair with their shared money, and Marcus had been too trusting to even check the statements. His jaw clenched as he kept digging. Then he found the emails, a whole thread with some dude named Tyler. Marcus clicked on the first one and started reading. The messages weren't even careful. They were straight up arrogant, like Claire thought she was untouchable. "Can't wait to see you Thursday. Marcus thinks I'm at book club, lol. This sneaking around is kind of hot, but I'm ready for us to be public, soon." Marcus is so predictable. Same routine every day. Makes it easy to plan around him. Each message felt like a knife twisting deeper. But the one that really set Marcus off was near the bottom of the thread, dated just 2 weeks before the anniversary disaster. "Soon, Marcus will be out of the picture. I'll finally be free and we won't have to sneak around anymore. Can't wait to start our real life together." Marcus leaned back in the chair, his hand shaking slightly. Not from sadness, from pure, unfiltered rage that he had to actively suppress. Claire hadn't just decided to leave him on a whim. This had been in the works for months. She'd been playing house with him while building a whole separate life with Tyler behind his back. He clicked on Tyler's social media profile that Claire had bookmarked. The dude looked exactly like Marcus expected. Gym selfies, motivational quotes about grinding and winning. No real career to speak of. No property, no stability. Just a smooth talker living off vibes and charm. This was the upgrade? This was what Claire threw away 6 years for? Marcus closed the laptop slowly, his mind already spinning with his next moves. Claire hadn't just betrayed him, she'd played him like a fool. And now Marcus had ammunition. Marcus woke up the next morning with crystal clear focus. No more playing defense. No more just ignoring Claire's desperate attempts to worm her way back into his life. It was time to go full offense, to lock down everything she thought she could still access, everything she'd taken for granted while she was out there living her double life. First stop, the bank. Marcus walked into their local branch at 9 a.m. sharp, right when they opened. He'd banked here for 8 years, knew most of the staff by name. The manager, Karen, greeted him with her usual smile. "Marcus, good to see you. What can we help you with today?" "I need to separate all joint accounts and transfer my portion into new individual accounts today." Karen's smile faltered slightly. She'd probably heard rumors already. Small town, big mouths. But she stayed professional. "Of course, let me pull up your accounts." Within 2 hours, Marcus had moved every dollar he'd earned into accounts Claire couldn't touch. He closed their joint credit cards, the ones she'd been using to fund hotel rooms with Tyler. He updated all his direct deposits, his automatic payments, his entire financial life. It was surgical, clean, permanent. By the time he left that bank, Claire's access to their shared money was completely shut down, and Marcus knew exactly what would happen next. All those charges she'd been racking up, the shopping sprees, the fancy dinners, the lifestyle she'd been living while planning her escape, all of it was about to come crashing down. Next, Marcus called a locksmith. "I need all the locks changed on my house, today. How soon can you get there?" "We can have someone out there by 2 p.m. Perfect." By mid-afternoon, every lock on every door had been replaced. New keys, new deadbolts, new everything. Claire's old keys were now useless pieces of metal that wouldn't open anything. Marcus stood in his doorway, testing the new lock, feeling a sense of control he hadn't felt in weeks. But he wasn't done. He called his lawyer next, a sharp woman named Patricia who'd handled some estate planning for him a few years back. She answered on the second ring. "Marcus Hayes, it's been a while. What can I do for you?" "I need a divorce attorney, the best you know, and I need them yesterday." Patricia didn't ask questions. "I'll email you 3 names within the hour, all bulldogs. You'll be in good hands." True to her word, the email came through before Marcus even finished his coffee. He called the first name on the list, set up a consultation for the following morning, and started documenting everything. Every email from Claire's laptop, every hotel receipt, every message with Tyler. He created a folder on his computer labeled Evidence and filled it with screenshots, PDFs, credit card statements, everything a lawyer would need to bury her in court. His phone buzzed. Another text from Claire. "Marcus, my card got declined. What's going on? Call me." He read it and smiled. The financial pressure was already hitting. Collections would start calling her within days. The credit cards she'd maxed out thinking Marcus would cover, now they were her problem, her debt, her mess to clean up. Marcus deleted the text and went back to his documentation. Claire wanted independence. She was about to get it, along with every consequence that came with it. While Claire's world was crumbling like a house of cards, Marcus was doing something she never expected. He was thriving. Not just surviving the breakup, but actually leveling up in ways that made his old life look like a rough draft. He started hitting the gym every single morning instead of every other day. That 6 a.m. wake-up stayed the same, but now, after his 2-mile jog, he'd head straight to the weight room. Bench press, deadlifts, pull-ups until his arms shook. He hired a personal trainer named Derek, a former Marine who didn't believe in excuses or rest days. "You want to build yourself back up?" Derek had asked during their first session. "Then we're going to tear you down first and rebuild you stronger." And that's exactly what happened. Within 3 weeks, Marcus's body started changing. His shoulders got broader, his waist got tighter, his clothes fit different, better. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was reclaiming himself, 1 rep at a time. But the physical transformation was only part of it. Marcus started reconnecting with people he'd lost touch with during the marriage, old college buddies who'd slowly drifted away because Claire always had some reason they couldn't hang out, work friends who'd invited him to poker nights that he'd declined because Claire wanted him home. Now, Marcus was all in.
Tuesday night poker games became his new ritual, sitting around a table with guys who actually had his back, talking trash, laughing at stupid jokes, drinking bourbon that wasn't trying to impress anyone. These dudes knew what had gone down at Antonio's. Word traveled fast, but they didn't pity him. They respected how he'd handled it. "Yo, Marcus," his buddy James said one night while dealing cards, "I gotta say, man, the way you just stood up and walked out, stone cold. That was legendary." Marcus smiled, sipping his drink. "Sometimes silence hits harder than screaming." "Facts. And bro, you're looking jacked lately. What you been doing?" "Just taking care of myself for once." The guys around the table nodded. They got it. Marriage to the wrong person could drain you, make you forget who you were before them. Marcus was remembering, and it felt good. He even signed up for cooking classes, something he'd mentioned wanting to do years ago. Claire had clowned him for it, said it was a waste of time when they could just order takeout or go to restaurants. But now, Marcus was learning to make real Italian pasta from scratch, perfecting his knife skills, understanding flavor profiles. Every Wednesday evening, he'd show up to the community center kitchen and lose himself in the process. His instructor, an older Italian woman named Rosa, noticed his dedication. "You cook with passion," she told him one night. "That's rare. Most people just follow recipes. You feel the food." Marcus smiled. "I'm learning that when you put real effort into something, it actually matters. Can't fake that." By week 4, Marcus wasn't just surviving Claire's betrayal. He was becoming the best version of himself he'd ever been. Stronger, sharper, more confident. And the crazy part? He wasn't doing it to make her jealous or to prove anything to anyone. He was doing it for himself. And that made all the difference.
Marcus didn't have to do much to watch Claire's social life implode. Turns out, when you publicly humiliate your husband and then immediately face the consequences of your own choices, people start seeing you differently, real differently. The first crack came from Jessica, one of Claire's work friends who'd been at Antonio's that night. She called Marcus out of the blue one Thursday evening, her voice shaky and guilty. "Marcus, hey, I need to apologize. What we did that night, clapping and celebrating like that, it was messed up. We got caught up in the moment, and I feel terrible about it." Marcus leaned back on his couch, phone to his ear. "So what changed? Why the sudden conscience?" Jessica hesitated. She's been calling everyone, asking to crash on couches, asking for money, asking people to co-sign for apartments. She burned through her savings faster than anyone expected. And honestly, people are starting to see through her act. Her act? Yeah, the whole finding myself thing, the upgrading my life speech she gave that night. Turns out she was just leaving you for some gym rat who dumped her the second things got complicated. Now she's scrambling and people are realizing she made a huge mistake. Marcus stayed quiet, letting Jessica continue. "She's been couch surfing for 2 weeks. My place, Sarah's place, even tried to stay with her cousin Derek, but he kicked her out after 3 days. Nobody wants to deal with her drama anymore. And the friends who cheered the loudest, they're the ones avoiding her calls now." Marcus felt a grim satisfaction wash over him. "Appreciate you telling me, Jessica, but I'm not getting involved. She made her bed." "I know. I wanted you to know we see it now. What she did was wrong, and you handled it with more class than most people would have." After Jessica hung up, Marcus's phone started buzzing with similar calls over the next few days. Tom called to apologize. Brad sent a long text about how he'd been a terrible friend. Even Claire's gym buddy, the one who'd cornered him in the cereal aisle, left a voicemail saying she understood why he'd walked away. The narrative was shifting hard. Claire's triumphant exit was looking more like a train wreck in slow motion, and everyone who'd supported her was quietly backing away, trying to distance themselves from the mess. Marcus ran into Sarah at the grocery store one Saturday morning. She looked embarrassed the second she spotted him. "Marcus, hey." "Sarah. Look, I just want to say that night was wrong. We shouldn't have clapped. We shouldn't have encouraged her. She's been asking to stay with us, but honestly, my husband said no. We can't have that energy in our house." Marcus nodded slowly. "She's struggling?" "Big time. She's hurting, Marcus. Maybe you could—" Marcus cut her off, his voice calm but firm.
She didn't just say something she regrets, Sarah. She performed it. She rehearsed it. She humiliated me in front of a crowd on purpose. That's not something you accidentally trip over like a shoelace. That's a choice. Sarah had no reply. She just stood there among the produce section, looking down at her shopping cart. Marcus pushed his cart past her, leaving her with the same silence Claire had been drowning in for weeks. The people who cheered weren't cheering anymore. They were watching Claire sink, and none of them were throwing her a lifeline.
Marcus had never been big on social media, but Claire, she lived for it. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, every platform was her stage, and she performed daily. So when Marcus started noticing changes in her online presence, he knew the cracks were spreading deeper than just her real-life relationships. Week 1 after Antonio's had been all champagne glasses and empowerment quotes. Claire posted pictures of herself at rooftop bars with captions like, "New chapter, new me," and "Finally living my life." The comments section was full of heart emojis and "You go girl" responses from people who had no clue what was really going down. Marcus had scrolled through those posts from his couch, sipping bourbon, watching her perform for an audience that didn't know they were watching a woman in freefall. But by week 2, the tone shifted hard. The champagne glasses disappeared, the rooftop bars turned into inspirational quote graphics pulled from Google. Everything happens for a reason. Strong women rebuild themselves. The best revenge is success. Generic stuff that screamed desperation louder than any confession could. The likes started dropping. Comments got sparse. People were unfollowing quietly, the way you back away from someone having a meltdown at a party. Week 3 was when things got dark. Claire's posts became vague, sad. No more pictures of herself, just black and white photos of empty coffee cups and rainy windows with captions like, "Sometimes the loneliest place is inside your own head," and "Not everyone who smiles is happy." Marcus saw right through it. This was Claire's cry for help, her way of fishing for sympathy from an audience that had already moved on to the next drama. The comments section reflected it too. Instead of hundreds of supportive messages, she was getting maybe 5 or 6, and even those felt obligatory. "Stay strong, hun. Praying for you. DM me if you need to talk." Empty words from people who weren't actually going to show up. One night, Marcus noticed she'd posted a late-night story at 2 a.m., just text on a black background. Do people really change, or do they just show you who they've always been? He almost laughed. The irony was off the charts. Claire was the one who'd shown exactly who she was at Antonio's, someone willing to destroy her husband publicly for applause. And now she was acting like she was the victim of someone else's betrayal. The real kicker came when Marcus checked Tyler's social media. Dude had scrubbed every trace of Claire from his accounts. No couple photos, no tags, nothing. He was back to posting gym selfies and motivational garbage like Claire had never existed. Comments from other women filled his posts, and Tyler was responding with flirt emojis and "appreciate you" replies. Claire's upgrade had upgraded right past her the second things got messy. Marcus closed the app and set his phone down. He didn't need to post anything. Didn't need to blast Claire online or air their dirty laundry for likes. His silence on social media was just as loud as his silence in real life. While Claire was documenting her spiral for the world to see, Marcus was living his best life offline, hitting PRs at the gym, perfecting homemade risotto, laughing with real friends at poker night. He didn't need validation from strangers online. Claire was drowning in her own narrative, and Marcus, he was watching from the shore, unbothered, unmoved, and completely free. When guilt trips and social media posts didn't work, Claire switched tactics. If Marcus wouldn't respond to her desperation, maybe he'd respond to fear. Maybe he'd come running if he thought she was in actual danger. So she started manufacturing emergencies, each one more dramatic than the last. The first text came on a Wednesday afternoon while Marcus was in a meeting with a client. "Marcus, I'm at the hospital. Chest pains. I think it's serious. I'm scared." His phone buzzed on the conference table. Marcus glanced at it, read the message,
and felt absolutely nothing. No panic, no urge to rush out and check on her, just cold calculation. He knew Claire well enough to know when she was playing games, and this had her fingerprints all over it. He finished his meeting, shook hands with his client, and then called the 3 hospitals in their area, St. Mary's, General, and Cedar Ridge Medical. Asked each one if a Claire Hayes had been admitted in the last few hours. No record of that name, sir. Nothing in our system. No admissions under that name today. Marcus nodded to himself. Of course. He saved screenshots of the text and the hospital records search, added them to his evidence folder, and went back to work. Claire's follow-up text came 2 hours later. Doctors said it was just anxiety. I'm okay now, but it would have been nice if you'd checked on me. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't even acknowledge it. The manipulation was so transparent it was almost insulting. A week later, she tried again. This time, it was a car breakdown story. My car died on the highway. I'm stranded. AAA can't get here for 2 hours. It's getting dark. I don't feel safe. Marcus checked her Instagram stories. Posted 4 hours earlier a photo of her at some rooftop bar downtown, wine glass in hand, sunset in the background. Caption, sometimes you just need a vibe reset. He screenshotted that too and added it to the folder. Her car wasn't broken down. She was sipping wine at a bougie bar while texting him fake emergencies. The audacity was almost impressive. Each lie she told made Marcus's resolve harder. He saved every message, not to respond to, but as evidence of her manipulation tactics. The chest pains that never happened, the car that wasn't actually broken, the emergencies that mysteriously resolved themselves the moment she realized he wasn't taking the bait. Then came the most desperate attempt. A voicemail at 11 p.m. on a Friday. Claire's voice was shaking, almost convincing. Marcus, I did something stupid. I took some pills. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Please call me back. Please. For half a second, Marcus's chest tightened. What if this one was real? What if she'd actually hurt herself? Then he remembered who he was dealing with. The woman who'd rehearsed a public humiliation. The woman who'd lied about hospitals and car troubles. The woman who'd manipulate anything and anyone to get what she wanted. He called her sister, Monica, instead. Monica, Claire just left me a voicemail saying she took pills. Can you check on her? Monica sighed heavily. She's fine, Marcus. She's sitting right here on my couch eating leftover pizza and watching Netflix. She said she was going to make you feel something tonight. I told her it was a bad idea. Marcus hung up without another word. Claire wasn't in danger. She was just running out of cards to play. And Marcus, he was done being her backup plan, her safety net, her emotional punching bag. Every fake emergency just proved what he already knew. She didn't want him back. She just couldn't handle that he'd moved on without her.
By week 4, Claire's tone had completely flipped. No more apologies, no more fake emergencies, no more tearful voicemails about missing what they had. She was done playing the victim and had switched to playing the aggressor, trying to guilt Marcus into submission through sheer entitlement. The text came through on a Monday morning, right as Marcus was finishing his workout. You owe me a conversation. After 6 years, I deserve respect. Stop being a coward and talk to me like an adult. Marcus read it while wiping sweat from his face, standing in the gym locker room. He almost laughed out loud. Respect? The same woman who treated him like disposable trash in front of a dozen people now thought she was entitled to his time and attention? He didn't respond, just deleted it and headed to the shower. But Claire wasn't done. Over the next 3 days, the messages kept coming, each one more demanding than the last. This silent treatment is childish. We're both adults here. You can't ignore me forever. We have things to settle. I'm done playing games, Marcus. Answer me. The entitlement was wild. She really believed that after everything she'd done, she still had the right to make demands, like Marcus was obligated to engage with her just because she decided it was time to talk.
Friday night, things reached a breaking point. Marcus was chilling on his couch, watching a game, eating the homemade pasta he'd perfected in cooking class when his doorbell started ringing. Not once, not twice, over and over, like someone was leaning on it. He got up, looked through the peephole, and there she was, Claire, standing on his porch holding takeout bags from their old favorite Thai restaurant. Her hair was done, makeup on point, dressed like she was trying to recreate some romantic memory that didn't exist anymore. "Marcus, can we just talk?" she called through the door, her voice that fake sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "I brought food, your favorite, pad thai and spring rolls. Come on, please." Marcus stood there for a second, just watching her through the peephole. She rang the bell again and again and again. For nearly an hour straight, she stood there, alternating between ringing the bell and knocking, calling his name, pleading for him to just open the door. He didn't move. He went back to his couch, turned up the volume on the TV, and ordered a pizza from his phone. Let her stand there. Let her neighbors see the woman who'd strutted with such confidence, now reduced to begging on his doorstep like some desperate ex who couldn't take no for an answer. Around 10 p.m., the ringing finally stopped. Marcus looked through the window and watched her walk back to her car, shoulders slumped, takeout bag still in hand. She sat in the driver's seat for a good 10 minutes, probably crying or rehearsing her next move. Marcus didn't feel guilty, didn't feel bad. He felt powerful. For the first time since Antonio's, he had all the control. Claire had shown up thinking she could waltz back into his life with some pad thai and a smile. Instead, she'd been reminded that she no longer had access to him, his home, or his heart. The tables had completely turned, and Claire was finally starting to understand what it felt like to be discarded. Saturday morning brought more desperate moves from Claire's camp. This time, she wasn't showing up alone. She was bringing in the heavy artillery, her mother. Marcus was making breakfast when he heard the knock. Not the doorbell this time, just 3 firm knocks that had a different energy to them. He looked through the peephole and saw Claire's mom, Margaret, standing on his porch looking uncomfortable. Claire was hanging back near the driveway, arms crossed, watching. So she'd sent her mother to do the dirty work. Classic. Marcus opened the door, but only about 6 inches, just enough to be polite, not enough to invite conversation. "Margaret?" "Marcus, dear, can we talk for a moment? Just a few minutes of your time." Her voice had that pleading, motherly tone that probably worked on most people, but Marcus had heard enough manipulation over the past month to spot it from a mile away. "About what?" Margaret glanced back at Claire, then looked at Marcus with those concerned eyes. "She's impulsive. You know how she gets. Don't throw everything away over one mistake. 6 years of marriage, Marcus. That has to count for something." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, keeping his expression neutral. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on your way home. What she did was humiliation, planned like a stage act. That's not impulsive, that's deliberate." She was confused, under pressure. She rented a private room, invited 12 people, rehearsed a speech about how I was a waste of her time, then she stood up with a wine glass and performed it for an audience. Margaret, that took planning, that took effort, that wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. Margaret's face fell slightly. She knew he was right, but she was trying to defend her daughter anyway. Mom loyalty, Marcus got it, but it didn't change the facts. People do things they regret. "I'm sure she does regret it," Marcus cut in, his voice calm but firm. "But regret doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't undo the damage, and it definitely doesn't obligate me to forgive and forget just because it's convenient for her now. She has nowhere to go, Marcus. She's my daughter, and I'm watching her struggle. Can't you find it in your heart to—" "No." The word came out clean and final. She wanted independence, she declared it publicly, she can have it. I'm not her backup plan when her upgrade didn't work out. Marcus stepped back and closed the door. Not slammed it, just closed it with quiet finality. Through the peephole, he watched Margaret stand there for a moment, probably shocked that her motherly plea hadn't worked. Then she walked back to where Claire was waiting. He could see them talking, Claire's arms gesturing wildly, probably pissed that even her mom couldn't crack him. They stood there for another 5 minutes before finally getting in the car and driving off. Sunday brought the religious angle. Marcus found notes tucked under his doormat, slipped through his mail slot, even left on his car windshield, all about forgiveness, about the sanctity of marriage, about God's plan for reconciliation. Claire had suddenly found faith, apparently. Convenient timing. Marcus collected all the notes, read them once, and tossed them in the trash. Then he sat down at his kitchen table with his coffee and smiled. Claire was running out of plays. She tried guilt, she tried emergencies, she tried demands, she'd sent her mother, she invoked God. And Marcus had shut down every single attempt without breaking a sweat. The game was almost over, and he was winning.
Monday morning hit different. Marcus was at his desk, reviewing investment portfolios for a major client, when his office phone rang. Not his cell, his direct office line, the one Claire shouldn't even have. He picked up. Marcus Hayes. Marcus. Claire's voice came through tight, strained, a mix of desperation and forced composure. We need to meet today. It's urgent. Marcus leaned back in his chair, pen in hand, completely calm. What's so urgent, Claire? There was a pause. He could hear her breathing, probably trying to figure out how to phrase this without sounding as desperate as she actually was. I need your help with something important. Can we meet? Coffee, lunch, anywhere you want. Help with what? Another pause, longer this time. Marcus could practically hear her pride crumbling on the other end of the line. I need you to co-sign for an apartment. Nobody else will. My credit's not good enough, and you're the only one who qualifies. There it was, the truth bomb. After weeks of fake emergencies, guilt trips, religious notes, and door-knocking marathons, Claire had finally dropped the mask completely. She didn't want him back. She didn't miss their marriage. She needed his signature, his stability, his good credit that she'd helped trash by maxing out their joint cards. Marcus let the silence stretch between them. He wanted her to sit in it, to feel the weight of what she was really asking. The woman who'd called their marriage a waste of her prime years was now begging the man she'd discarded to bail her out of the mess she'd created. Marcus, are you there? I'm here. So, will you meet me? Just to talk about it? 30 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Marcus tapped his pen against his desk, thinking. He could say no right now, could hang up and let her drown in her own consequences. But something told him this needed to happen face to face, not for her benefit, for his. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, the moment where Claire's arrogance would meet his revenge head on. Fine, I'll meet you. He could hear the relief in her voice, the way her breathing changed. Really? Oh, thank God. When? Where? That coffee shop on 5th Street, the one near the bookstore. 4 o'clock today. I'll be there. Thank you, Marcus. Seriously, thank you. Don't thank me yet. He hung up before she could respond. Marcus sat there for a moment, staring at his computer screen but not really seeing it. His mind was already working, planning, preparing for the conversation that would end this chapter once and for all. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small cardboard box. Empty. He'd grabbed it from the recycling bin last week, flattened it, and kept it just in case this moment came. And now it had. Marcus looked at the cardboard, then smiled. Not a happy smile, a calculated one. The kind of smile that comes right before you deliver a knockout punch someone's been begging for without even realizing it. He'd planned this moment carefully. Every word, every gesture, every detail designed to make sure Claire understood exactly what she'd thrown away and exactly what she'd never get back. At 3:45 p.m., Marcus grabbed his jacket, picked up the cardboard box, and headed out. It was time to close the story for good. The coffee shop was packed that afternoon. Monday rush, people grabbing their caffeine fix after work, students camped out with laptops, the constant hum of conversation mixing with the hiss of the espresso machine. Marcus had chosen this place deliberately, neutral ground, but public enough that Claire couldn't twist the story later or make a scene without witnesses. He arrived exactly on time, carrying that small cardboard box under his arm. He'd planned this moment down to the last detail, rehearsed every line in his head during the drive over. This wasn't about anger anymore. This was about making sure Claire understood the consequences of her choices in a way she'd never forget.
Claire was already there, sitting at a corner table, dressed like she was going to a job interview. Tailored blouse, heels, makeup done up nice, trying to look put together, professional, like she had her life sorted. But Marcus could see through it. The stress was written all over her face. Pale skin, dark circles under her eyes that foundation couldn't quite hide, the way her fingers kept fidgeting with her coffee cup. She spotted him and waved, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Marcus, thank you for coming. I know this has been hard for both of us, but we need to be practical now." Marcus sat down across from her, placing the box on the table between them. His expression was blank, emotionless. He wasn't here to comfort her or make this easy. "Practical," he repeated, his voice calm and measured. "You humiliated me in front of our friends, Claire. You called 6 years of marriage a waste of your time. That wasn't practical. That was performance art." She flinched, but tried to push through. I know. I said things I didn't mean. I was overwhelmed, angry, confused. But this isn't about the past. It's about moving forward. I found a great apartment, but my credit isn't good enough, and the landlord requires a co-signer. It's just a formality. If you'd sign, I can move on and stop bothering you." Marcus leaned back, studying her. "Credit issues? You mean the designer handbags, the fancy dinners, the hotel rooms with Tyler?" Her breath caught. The color drained from her face completely. You went through my things?" "I didn't have to dig deep," Marcus said quietly, his voice cutting like ice. "You left the trail wide open. Your laptop. Same password as always. Biscuit123. The only thing I didn't know was how long you'd been laughing behind my back. Now I do." Claire's hands started shaking. She set down her coffee cup before she spilled it. "Marcus, please. That was a mistake. Tyler, he's nothing. I see that now. You were the one steady thing in my life, and I threw it away. I was stupid, I was selfish, but I need your help. Please." Marcus slid the cardboard box across the table toward her. "Open it." Her eyebrows furrowed in confusion. She lifted the lid slowly and stared inside. Just a piece of flattened cardboard clearly cut from a moving box. Her eyes flicked up, confusion mixing with the first hints of horror. "What is this?" Marcus's voice stayed even, almost conversational, but every word landed like a hammer. "Your backup housing plan. Since you're asking the man whose life you publicly dismantled to co-sign your new one, I figured you might need options. Cardboard makes for decent shelter if you know how to fold it right." The coffee shop went quiet. Nearby conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. People stared. Claire's face went from pale to bright red. Every eye in that coffee shop was locked on their table. The humiliation she'd served Marcus at Antonio's was being returned with interest, and she could feel it crushing her from all sides. "Are you serious?" Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. "Completely," Marcus replied, his tone carrying that steel-cold certainty that silenced the entire room. "You want an upgrade, remember? You paraded it in front of a dozen people. But upgrades don't come crawling back to the old model for help. They stand on their own. Clearly, what you found wasn't an upgrade at all." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes. Her hand shook as she clutched the edge of the box. "I made a mistake, Marcus. A huge one. I know that now. Please don't let me drown like this. 6 years has to count for something." Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping low, but somehow more dangerous in its calmness. "It does count. It counts as 6 years I gave you everything. Loyalty, trust, stability. And in return, you gave me betrayal, lies, and a performance in front of people we called friends. That's what it counts for." "I was wrong," she whispered, tears streaming down her face now. "I see that. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought Tyler was something he's not. He left me the second things got messy. Marcus, I have nowhere else to go. My sister's done with me. My friends have all disappeared. Please, I need you." Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice never rose. "And where was that need when you stood with the wine glass and called me a waste of time? Where was that need when you were sneaking around with him? You didn't need me then, Claire. You don't need me now. You need my signature, my credit, my stability, but those aren't yours to access anymore." She dropped all pretense, her voice breaking completely. "I'll beg if I have to. Is that what you want?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "No, I don't want your begging. I want you to understand. Respect isn't something you demand after burning it to ash. You chose humiliation from me, so here's mine for you. The woman who declared independence and an upgrade is now begging her discarded husband for a signature just to keep a roof over her head. That's your reality. That's your revenge." The silence in that coffee shop was deafening. No cheers, no applause, no validation. Just Claire, hunched over that cardboard box, trembling under the weight of every stare, every whisper, every judgment. Marcus stood up, placing a $20 bill on the table for his untouched coffee. He looked at her one final time, his voice quiet but absolute. "You thought you were freeing yourself that night, Claire, but the truth is you freed me, and I won't waste that gift." He walked out, leaving her there with nothing but her shame and that empty box. The divorce finalized 2 months later, quick and brutal. Marcus's attorney brought witnesses from Antonio's, people who testified to Claire's public declaration. Those same cheers that had filled the private room now worked against her in court. The judge granted Marcus the house, his assets, and denied Claire any spousal support. She left with nothing but her clothes and a reputation in ruins. Word spread fast. Videos of the coffee shop confrontation had been recorded by strangers, uploaded quietly, shared in private group chats. Her downfall became a cautionary tale whispered at dinner parties and shared as a warning: be careful what you celebrate in public. Meanwhile, Marcus thrived. He redecorated the house, filling it with things that reflected his taste, not hers. His promotions at work kept coming. His body was in the best shape of his life. New friendships formed. Dating eventually crept back in. Women admired his confidence, his strength, his refusal to tolerate disrespect. Claire drifted to obscurity. A tiny studio apartment in the worst part of town. Bars on the windows, broken elevators, flickering hallway lights. Her social media went completely dark. The friends who clapped at Antonio's? Gone. Independence looked real different when it came with consequences. For Marcus, the real victory wasn't watching her suffer. It was reclaiming himself. He no longer second-guessed his worth. He no longer walked on eggshells. He no longer wondered if loyalty was enough. He kept the wedding ring he'd left on the table at Antonio's in his drawer, not as a symbol of loss, but as a reminder that silence can be the sharpest weapon, that humiliation, when returned with patience and precision, cuts deeper than rage ever could. Marcus Hayes didn't just survive betrayal. He transformed it into power, into freedom, into a life entirely his own. And as for Claire, the woman who once declared she was upgrading, discovered the bitter truth. Sometimes the upgrade you brag about in public is nothing but a downgrade in disguise.